Hello everyone, hello. This year is dedicated to Lili Nishmas, Rachalea Bas Reb Chaim Tzvi. Okay, let's begin. We're in the middle of the Chofetz Chaim's introduction to Sefer Chofetz Chaim. We're going through the lavs and the mitzvos that a person violates in connection with lashon hara. And we're seeing over and over again so many examples, so many areas, way beyond lashon hara, that the laws of lashon hara connect with everything. And if a person is careful with lashon hara, he'll end up being careful with many, many other areas of halacha as well. And if a person is unfortunately not careful with lashon hara, so it has many ramifications, other lavin as well. Okay, we've said that many, many times before. But okay, I think people tell me that sometimes I have a very strong tendency to repeat myself. People tell me that sometimes I have a very strong tendency to repeat myself. Okay, let's go on. Now, Lav Yadalad. We're up to Lav Yadalad. What if you embarrass someone? What if you speak lashon hara to someone in public and you embarrass them? That's another law. Here we go. If you degrade the person, in front of the person, in front of other people, until the person's face changes. When you're embarrassed, the color in your face changes. There's a lav, lotisa lav chet, sheishira haTorah bezeh, lo levayish as chaver Yisrael. Afil melkom tochacha, uveno venatzmo. Oh, the Torah is talking about you should give someone rebuke. They're doing an aver, you give them rebuke, and the Torah says lotisa lav chet. Even when you're trying to, in a sense, help someone and give them rebuke, don't embarrass them in public. Lotisa lav chet, and if you do, it's an avera. So even if you're doing a good thing, you're giving someone proper rebuke, trying to help them in a sense, help them serve Hashem better, and still you have to be careful not to embarrass someone in public. What if there's no tochach involved? You're just talking to someone. You're just making fun of someone. It's not a rebuke. You're not doing a mitzvah. You're hurting someone. Then certainly you violate this avera. And that's even shelo b'rab. That's even if let's say there's only one other person around. So if you speak lashon hara about someone in front of another person, and the person gets embarrassed, you violate this lav. Okay, that's what the Chofetz Chaim says. Very important idea. Again, lashon hara is usher, and we have to be careful. But certainly to speak lashon hara about someone in front of another person, terrible. You violate this lav as well. You end up with lashon hara. You end up embarrassing someone in public. Well, already a few times in these classes we've quoted from Rav Orlik of Orlik Shlita's book, Raising Roses Among Thorns, and many areas of it. But what he points out in the Sefer is that a person wants to be a good parent and good chinuch. You have to have good midos first. You have to work on your midos, and that's why this book is a wonderful book to read, because the midos development starts now. Even if a person isn't holding by being a parent yet, a person is not even married yet, but still the midos development in this book that the book talks about is very important. Well, so here it talks about here as well, this comes up in parenting as well. Here in the source sheet, in his book on page 270, he's discussing successful criticism and unsuccessful criticism of children. Sometimes you have to give your children constructive criticism. You give them tochacha. We discussed that as well. That part of parenting is giving guidance, giving tochacha, and therefore therefore you have to know how to give tochacha properly as a parent. So he writes here as follows. Rule number 5 about successful criticism. Rav Orlik writes, not in public. Not in public. The Gemara points out that Yerovam ben Nevat merited royalty because he rebuked Shlomo HaMelech, but that he lost his share in the world to come because he did so in public. Children, like all of us, are sensitive to being rebuked in public. If they are emotionally healthy, they will feel stung by such assaults to their dignity and self-image. Simply in order to save face, they will refuse to acknowledge the correctness of the rebuke and will often become defiant. This is a corollary of our saying that a child would rather die than lose. That's another discussion which he has. Very important. Very important. Sometimes a parent has a point to make to one of his children, and it's a good point, but other people are around. And you have to understand that stings. Kids remember that forever. That my father, my mother, mamish embarrassed me in public. And this we discussed last week as well. That that the Chazon Ish pointed out that sometimes you want to give your child some to help him serve Hashem better and give him some proper rebuke, and you might violate son just achliv. So you have to be careful about this as well. That be very careful, very often, and your parents have to think. You have to take a second to think. But I have to get a message across. But is there a way I can pull him to the side, say something quietly, people don't hear? And very, very important, Dr. Baruch says that this lav, Yud Daled, ends up connecting directly into parenting itself. Oh, a few times already I've mentioned, we talk about talchacha, giving rebuke. So I use the language giving advice.